Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about escort quests. A while back I did a video called RPG Features Nobody Asked For, and I included escort quests on that video. Why? I've never seen a review asking for more escort quests. Ever. Not once. I've seen reviews going, I wish there was more combat in here, or I wish the combat was better. I wish there was more opportunity to do stealth quests. I wish there was more dialogue with NPCs, but not once have I seen a review going, do you know what this RPG needs? More escort quests. And I've rarely seen them done well. Many people pointed out RPGs that did them well, and I'm like, okay, I never said no one had done them well. What I said was no one ever asks for them, and certainly no one ever asks for more of them. And by the way, pointing out a game that does it well doesn't disprove my theory that most of them do it badly. And it doesn't even address the original argument that no one's asking for them, but we keep getting them usually done badly. What was interesting about that video was many people offered a solution, the same solution. Basically, an escort NPC should just join the player party as a companion. And then when you eventually get to where they're going, they leave. I answered the first couple people who said this, but I realized most people don't read the comments, or else they would have realized lots of other people gave that answer. I mean, as recently as a week and a half after the video went live, people were still suggesting that solution, even though a dozen other people had suggested it, and I had answered a few times. So I thought I'd do a video and talk about that particular solution and why it is not a solution. So let's address it particularly. This is the kind of discussion that would happen if you worked at a game company and you were a designer, and maybe I was the lead designer, and I'm like, guys, I don't want to put any more escort quests in. And one of you went, I know how to solve it. The NPC joins the player party and then when they get to the destination, they say thank you and leave. And it solves all the problems of speed problems and you getting too far away from the NPC or not going fast enough or whatever. And I see people write that like, hey, if you do it this way, the NPC speed doesn't matter. The path is under the player control. The player can do other quests if they want, so there's no issues with, timing. Like I was in the middle of doing something else. I really don't want to walk this particular way with this companion who's walking really slowly. And I just saw that and I'm like, not only are there a lot of problems with that solution, but I've already tried that solution 28 years ago. So let's deep dive into escort quests and solving them this way. So the first problem of having an NPC who wants an escort join your party as a companion, aside from all the issues that may cause with now they're a companion, are they under control like your other companions? Maybe your other companions aren't under control. Do they add to your inventory? Can you give them things? Can you dress them up differently? Are they just, if they're exactly like one of your companions, then that may cause issues. If they're not like another companion, it's going to cause other issues. People don't understand. I have these 3 companions. Why does one companion not let me switch out her weapon? Oh, because she's not really a companion. She's on an escort quest, but she's joined you as a companion. But the big question I had here is, most games have a limit to how many companions can join the party, and they have that limit for very good reasons, including frame rate and combat space availability, and just issues with having too many people follow you along in a conga line. If, let's say, I'm going to refer to this NPC new companion as she, her. If she can exceed your companion limit, then you're going to run into problems with combat play spaces that aren't big enough, unbalanced combats, because maybe you just went around the world and collected every single escort, and now you've got like 20 people walking around going, when are we getting to this town and this hut and this village? And you're not taking them back. You're just winding them through all these other quests, mowing down enemies because you have a ton of companions. If they can't exceed your companion limit, well, then that means you might not be able to accept the escort quest because you have too many companions. Now you have to reduce your number of companions. Does that mean you have to go into dialogue with one of them and dismiss them? Does that mean you have to go back to your base or your ship or wherever it is you keep companions, drop them off and come back? Does that mean when you take her into the party after you've dismissed someone, maybe your effectiveness is now reduced? You had these companions with you for a reason. Maybe you're not good at combat. Maybe you're not good at dialogue, and these companions improve that. And this new one doesn't do any of those things. So now you're not as effective as a team because you have to go on this escort quest. So whether or not she exceeds your companion limit, there's going to be issues. But let me get into the really big issue, and this is problem 2. How long does this new NPC stay in your party as a companion? And this is a trick question because no matter how you answer, I'm going to throw a bunch of problems at you that you're going to need to solve. Let's say you say, okay, when she joins the group as a new companion, she can be in there forever. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to get to the destination. Well, guess what? Problem 1, this is no longer an escort quest. This is just a companion acquisition quest. All you've done is added a companion with an exit condition. But a lot of companions have that. Maybe if you turn evil, they leave. Or maybe they're with you until they find a certain artifact and then they leave. Or maybe they leave if you kill a particular NPC. Guess what? That's no different than any other companions that have exit conditions. This one's exit condition is if you ever go to this place, they leave. So you solved the escort quest problem by basically converting it into a whole new type of quest, a companion acquisition quest. This is not hypothetical. This is exactly how we did it in Fallout. Because if you remember when you rescued Tandy from the Raiders, when you finished rescuing her, she said, "Oh, will you please take me home to Shady Sands?" But for a lot of players, if you've done all the quests in Shady Sands, you have no reason to return there. And you quickly discover if you never return there, you have a free new companion, Tandy. She's not that great in a fight, but at least she's something extra for enemies to aim at. So she's kind of making you more effective by just being an extra target. So it happened in QA. A lot of QA people were coming to me going, I never take Tandy back to Shady Sands. She's just an extra companion along with Tycho and Ian and Katja and all the people who were supposed to be companions. I dragged Tandy through the game. And often she died when you got to the military base because like many of the companions, like Dogmeat, she didn't understand those force fields and she'd just run into them and die. That's on you, by the way, people, if you're dragging Tandy across the wasteland. Can I remind you, she's a teenager? That's on you. Anyway, she was just an extra companion. So this solution you came up with is one we came up with 28 years ago, and we really didn't solve anything. Instead, we ended up with more companions following the player than we ever planned for, and that caused other issues. Because Google any reviews of Fallout, and there's a lot of issues with companion AI, and every new companion you got just made those issues worse. So dragging Tandy around just exacerbated all the AI issues that were already in Fallout. But some of you may go, oh, well, no, they won't. I'll do it the other way. I won't have them stay in the game or stay in your party forever. If you agree to escort someone, there's now a timer. Well, congratulations. You just added a timed quest to your game. Timed quests, one of the most single-hated quest types in all of RPGdom. And you just did it. You fixed an escort quest, which isn't disliked by a lot of people, by converting it into a timed quest, which is hated by almost everybody. Congratulations, you replaced one problem with a bigger problem. At this point, I usually tell junior designers, welcome to game design, because there is really no good solution to this. You're going to have to pick all the problems I just mentioned. You're going to have to pick the solution that you hate the least, or that you think will annoy your player base the least, or that you think fits best with your design pillars, including quest pillars and exploration pillars and whatever pillars you had for companions. You're going to figure out what your game is telling players this is how you should play, and then pick one of the ways of doing escort quests that matches most closely the way you're telling players you think the game should be played. Unless you just don't do escort quests. Same like you don't have to put in timed quests. You don't have to put in escort quests. You can just always leave them out. So unless you do them well, maybe you just shouldn't do them at all. Anyway, escort quests.